Good evening, all. If you're there, can you say something? Mr. Patrick, how you doing? Just waiting some more folks to jump on in. As you're logged in, can you say who you are and where you're from? And also, can you hear me? That's important. Everybody hearing me is fine? All right, good evening, Miss Roxanne Monroe, all the way there from our second city, Freeport, Grand Bahama. Once again, as you're logged on, can you just state, all right, good evening, Miss Roxanne Monroe, all the way there from our second city, Freeport, Grand Bahama. Just state where you're from, which island, which country. Even give us your name if you can. We have Karen Duncombe DeVoe. How you doing? Greetings all the way from our beautiful, I also call it the second city, Abaco. How is everything going down in Abaco? Miss Karen Duncombe is letting everybody know she knows me, Corey. How is everything going down there, man? I haven't been to Abaco since the hurricane, but I can see things are progressing. We're just waiting on a few more persons to jump in and then we're going to get started. For those who don't know me, my name is Al Nathan Corey Jabbar Rolle. Today is my 6th anniversary. So, being married for 6 years today. Grow up and born in the beautiful island of Nassau. For many of you who live in the Family Islands, you may have a different feeling towards my settlements on the beautiful island of Nassau, but that's fine. Other than that, God is good. So, predominantly I've been working with youth for the past 20 years. Doing outreaches in our Family Islands, programs in our schools, and conferences, and the list goes on. And most persons may know me as my stage name, DJ Counsellor. Great, Miss DeVoe. All is well, all is well. And say hello to Linda Wright Patrick. How you doing? Thank you for the anniversary sentiments. Once again, if you have any of your friends who are on the page, please let me know that we are live so we can kick things off. I promise you I will not have you long tonight on this beautiful Sunday. Miss Melissa Presenti. Yes, I remember my time there in Harbor Island. Been there a few times. Beautiful place, beautiful place. Yes, I remember my time there in Harbor Island. Been there a few times. Beautiful place, beautiful place. Thank you, Mr. Kevin Edwards. Good evening to you. Now, Ms. Linda Patrick, if it's okay for me to start, you can let me know. Or you want to wait a few for more persons to jump on. You can let me know also, please. We are good from Abaco again. We have Pastor McIntosh. Thank you for being a part. We appreciate that. All right, as we get ready to begin, I want to thank you once again for logging on and being a part of our unique couples. And this is my first time opportunity. I want to thank Gavito and Lyd Patrick for allowing this opportunity to happen. I think it came via a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours. And so definitely really appreciate that. For those logging on, don't know me, my name again. My name is Nathan Rolle. I'm the youth pastor at Bahamas Faith Ministries International. And so I'm also a gospel recording artist for the past 20 years. DJ Counsellor. And then again, also been doing youth ministry and outreaches, and the list goes on for many years. Still doing it. And also wherever the Lord sends me. And so tonight we're going to be discussing and talking about the big picture, the overall view of what we find ourselves in. And so we're going to start off in prayer first, and then I'll get rolling. Father, I thank you once again for this night, dear God. I thank you for everyone who is here, dear God. Those who are coming on in, dear God. We just thank you for this opportunity. We ask you to open each and everyone's heart, dear God. We ask you, dear God, that you will speak. And I thank you for the opportunity to share, dear God, your message of hope and love, dear God. We thank you. We give you honor and glory in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Yes, Ms. Bassetti, 20 plus years. That means I'm still a little boy, still a kid. And so good night again, once again. Everybody, a few times I'll mention this. This is very important. We do have an event coming up on September 28th. It's called Unique Couples Marriage in Crisis Webinar. And we have Leonardo and Delarice Allen. They're going to be your main speakers, along with Nathaniel Butler. And both I know very well. Nathaniel Butler is very versed within the finances and investments, and Leonardo and Delarice Allen are pastors at I think one of our Church of God churches in Andros. Very unique couple. I know them from they was on the Defense Force, and the list goes on. And so it's a power pack individuals going to be coming up on the 28th. That's going to be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And so again, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Do you want to prevent your marriage from breaking up and ending in divorce? Do you feel like you're in a brink of a marriage crisis? So this is going to be a very power-packed marriage in crisis webinar. And so definitely it's going to be hosted by our exciting couple. That's Mr. Vito and Lyd Patrick. And some of our topics will be in the webinar will be blended family, winning at communication, sex in marriage, money matters. So definitely, once again, mark your calendars. Please save the date, September 28th to the 29th. If you can, please get the flyer off the actual Facebook page, Unique Couples, and just share it with everybody. I said even share with those who thinking about getting married. Share with those who are on the verge of getting divorced. Share it with anybody who we assume is happy. And so that's very important. I want to thank them for this vision. This is a very powerful vision they have right now. Because anything that can save what God has instituted as the family is practically saving our country. And so once again, I want to thank the committee, the founders, for allowing me to be a part of today's live broadcast. 1 Corinthians 13 and 4 and 5, everyone knows this. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrong. And so one of the things I want to express to everyone here today is that those who are married, that we have found new ways of continuing the love. You know, we have those with stories of why they're still together, the valley of decisions many have been in of should I leave, should I stay. I've found ways of forgiving and always forgiving, and it's a journey that's always evolving. One of the things I like to share also, Proverbs 4 and 7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all get understanding. One of the things I've found out in my few years of being married is that ignorance is a serious, it could be a penalty, detrimental to not just your marriage but life itself. And so a lot of times we find ourselves getting in things, even if you're getting ready to start a business, getting ready to start a ministry, and sometimes we just go on the unction of this is my time now without investing the time of getting wisdom. And the most powerful thing about this scripture, it says, and all you get understanding, because at the end of the day, if you don't understand the knowledge you have, at the end of the day, what is it? And so this evening, I want us to remind ourselves that the word commands us to get understanding. And what I'm going to be expressing tonight about is that the big picture is about your union. Your union represents more than having the beautiful picket fence, the nice home. Those like to walk in the place and like to be seen, and they have their beautiful dress. They want folks to say, oh yeah, they are power couples. It's bigger than that, because at the end of the day, one of the things that we tend to forget as believers is that our influence is very important, it's critical. Most persons today, you'll see right now, who are, I would say, under the age of 35, 30, tend to have a different understanding on life itself than those who are in their 40s and above. They have a different concept on what marriage should be. And so at a point now where we actually see marriages in the Christian arena and in the church practically on the same level as those in the world when it comes to divorces, it's a scary thing. And a lot of times we move on the unction of selfishness, and this is why I brought up 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5, where love is patient. It isn't about you, to be honest with you. We get ourselves involved, we have something called a family, and we get so consumed in me. This is what I want, this is what I'm not getting. And by that, we move on a sense of I so much that till we forget that it is not about you. It's about who we're representing. The union of family comes from God and is ordained from God. One of the things I want to remind us of, success is not a mystery. It's actually could be predicted. Also, failures can be predicted. When you speak to persons who have been married long enough and you sit down with those who are just walking into this, a lot of times, you're always taught in counseling that we must always do what? Listen. But the person most likely who is listening to you already knows the answer to what we are going through, especially those who are just walking into something brand new. And one of the things I always remind believers is that you must always look at something from a different perspective. When we're here, we look at things from hindsight. God himself looks and sees the entire bird view of everything that comes with life. And this is where understanding is so critical and important. One of the most dangerous positions a young couple could ever do is to walk into marriage or walk into anything without proper counsel. And this is why I applaud the founders of this organization here today, this grouping, because again, you have a group of like-minded individuals whose mind is set on just winning, and not just the winning aspect of just being successful, but winning from a godly perspective, which is critical and very important. The first institution God established was a relationship, was a marriage. That's in the Garden of Eden, because this is again, God has already set the precedence of humanity. Today now, we have different conversations concerning what a family should look like. In the beginning, I mentioned about my 20 years in youth ministry. And most of the time, I'm spent dealing with what you call at-risk kids. Most of the time, I'm dealing with somebody who is now have a court matter, who is ready now facing maybe time in jail. Somebody who's now has to do community service. And the list goes on and on. But 90% of those homes that these young men and women find themselves coming out of are what we call broken homes. 90%. It isn't all, but the majority. And this is what the big picture represents. The big picture represents the fact that your family, your union is so important. It's actually the glue to whether the Bahamas is going to move from the crisis it's in right now versus what we have. Because at the end of the day, we're all here tonight because of a relationship. We're here where we are in our lives right now because of a relationship. We all came from what? A home. We all came from, some came from a single parent home. I came from, I guess you call it a nuclear family where I had a mom and dad. And the beautiful thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, is everybody's story is different. And so we'd even look and say that our worldview or our concept of what we think a marriage should be is also different. But majority of us who have grown up in the church and who've accepted God and who was hell bent on my life is going to be based on following in Him as much as I can. I have surrendered my life to Him to the point that whatever we have vested our time in, we wanted to reflect what God has instituted it for. So, like I mentioned, we are all a product of a relationship. And so in my home, I came from an abusive home. And so I've learned as a young man that what I saw and what I was exposed to, I used that to make sure that that is never reflected in my home. And so a lot of times I find myself going into prisons and going into boys' industrial schools or going to these meetings with these young men and young women, and they're just talking about, they're angry about what's going on, things they're unable to control. And so when those things happen, I kind of remind individuals that there's some things you just don't have any control of. And so God has given us something what we call personal power. That's what's in your hand. That's what you are in control of. And so anytime we become so consumed with things that we are unable to control, of course we're going to become frustrated. Of course we're going to become angry. Of course we're going to become discouraged. And to the point where we don't even want to be a part of it anymore. And so we have to remember as husband and wives that we are in control of our tongue. We are in control of our actions. We are in control of how we're going to respond to something that we know, or we hope this person understands that we just don't like. And so in us doing that, it kind of protects the bigger picture at the end of the day. And so with us being a product of a relationship, I have used the negativity that I've been exposed to as a young man, from the abuse and the list goes on, to make sure that I become of somebody of more value. And so I remember times of being sitting in a family meeting and being told that, you're a mistake. I wish I never had you. And I watch my other siblings, I talk about disturbed, where I'm sure it affected them straight into their adulthood. And so at the end of the day, I was able to grab the negativity that I was growing up to, grown and seeing, and the list goes on, to the point where when I look at my children today, I want to make sure that when they see their daddy, they want to see their daddy. They don't want to hide from their daddy. I don't want to be to the point where it was so bad that when I walked into the morgue with my father laying there on the table, I didn't even want to walk close to his body without my brother being there. That's how serious. That's how serious. What I'll say is a unstable home, and the effects that has on the greater picture when it comes to your family. And so the reason why I mentioned my whole topic tonight here as the big picture, because we can become so consumed on what we don't have, what we don't get, kind of forgetting what you do have and what you have the power to control right then and there. And so any of you who have children, listen very carefully. Your responsibility is so critical that if you miss certain windows in your child's development, it's not going to be a very pretty picture. A young lady, a young girl, should get her concept of love and what a man is from her home. And you can never give that if you're not there in the home. It becomes very challenging, and many young men today who on this feed will kind of contest to that. It becomes very, very difficult. And there's a window where these children are now forming into who they are. They're getting a concept of what they're seeing on television. They're getting a concept of what they're seeing with mommy and daddy when they go to school, and the list goes on. And so our responsibility is to make sure we don't just protect them physically, but even their understanding of what they are seeing. And this is why our union is critical. When our union fails, ladies and gentlemen, it puts a certain indent on society that is almost unrepairable. Because at the end of the day, when we look at how many young children are missing every single week in Nassau, it leaves questions to ask. Why? When we sit down with a young man and ask him, why would you want to pick up a gun and put a bullet in somebody's head because you don't like him or because he talking to your girl. That says a lot about who he is. And remember, we are all product of what? Of our relationship. Every document, every one of us, whether we want to believe it or not, are all products of a relationship. The big picture, ladies and gentlemen, is that your union is so important because why? With our influence, it's critical that we get persons to understand the myth that certain things concerning marriage is not really that important. What's really important, and the only persons who are qualified to share that are those who are walking this walk. I laugh when I see single women and single men talking about relationships. Like, what could you obviously teach about something that you really don't have? Marriage is the ultimate relationship. And so sitting down with a woman who's been married for 50 years, or with a family who's been married for 50 years, and they're able to talk about the storms they've been able to overcome. That's food for thought than the little fluff that the world is giving. And so it's important for us who have gone through some storms to tell their story and how they've overcome. I remember the other day, because I'm in the media business also, I was shooting something for one of our local churches, and I met like 6, 7, 8, 10 couples who talked about how their husbands abused them, and they went through fidelity, and some of them had children out of wedlock, and they stayed together. And I'm sitting there with my eyes open like, what? This is madness. And they're sitting there saying, listen, we knew what us coming together was greater than just our little feeling towards each other. And they talked about how rough some of them went to jail, some of them got locked up, and they stayed through every single thing they found themselves involved in. And so the reality of what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond just the fluff that we see on television, and the list goes on, but it's something that is so powerful. It produces something that our nation is lacking and the world at large. We have young women today who came through families, and as far as they're concerned, they don't want nothing to do with the opposite sex. Because again, they are a product of what? Of a relationship. And so one of the things that families miss, they drop their children off to a youth group and they say, fix my child at 16 years of age. Fix my child at 18 years of age. And this is what I'm talking about, us remembering 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5. Even when we're dealing with individuals in their error, love is patient. Remember, we're talking about personal power. There's certain things that we want to see in certain individuals that we just won't see that in our time. And this is why when we give something to God, we must leave it to God. When we give something to God, we got to trust God on that situation, in that situation. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. How many folks right now we have around us right now are hating on individuals who they should be friends with? Sometimes we find folks who are hating on your blessing, hating on your progress, and so even sometimes when you post your family pictures, persons envy that. You know why persons envy something that you have that you're great at? Because that's what it is. It's just great. And some people just don't have what you have. And some persons just perceive that what you have is the greatest thing there is in the world. Because why? They just want what you have. That's a compliment anytime you find individuals who are hating on your relationship, who want to see you fall. Because a lot of persons just, us black people, we could attest to this, we just hate to see progress amongst us. And one of the things is what is critical, man, our families and our marriage, it's important that we continue to win and understand the greater picture. It's not proud, it does not dishonor others. I remember growing up in my home and listening to my daddy disrespect my mother in front of his friends. And so I've learned through that when your home is going through turmoil, when you have some issues going at home, that doesn't spill out in the streets. Because why? Your home is sacred. And so how can I know that my home is sacred if no one taught me what is sacred? And this is why, again, we have to keep remembering everybody we buck in society today is a product of relationship. Some of the men and women you're going to run into, let me tell you right now, that we may forget this. Some of the men and women you're going to run into were not parented. Some of the men and women you're going to meet in the church, in our workplace, have never been discipled. And so their reality is your marriage itself may be the only thing they may see and realize that this thing makes sense. We're not talking about those who just, because don't forget now, especially a lot of our churches, the average congregant does not have access to their pastor or their first lady. We back to that status thing again. So us out in society, in our families, or wherever the case is, when individuals, whoever you come in contact with, remember that person may not have the opportunity to have grown up in the environment that you have grown up into. I remember when I first went to BFM, and Pastor Dave, who's now the senior pastor, he was the youth pastor, and I saw him kiss his son on his forehead. I said, what madness is this? I thought that was the most, I don't know what to call that. I know he wasn't gay, but I've never seen a man embrace his son. You know why? That was not my reality. What I came out of was just not, that ain't there. I love you, none of them kind of things. And so when we bucking and meeting persons in society, when we seeing folks around us fail, because a lot of time their foundation is just compromised. And this is why your union is critical to society. Because at the end of the day, the average marriage today is ending in divorce in a couple of months and years. Dudes trying to figure, how can I get out of this now? I remember I went to speaking, I think it was Washington some years back, and I was in this elevator with this old couple, and they were just chuckling to themselves. I'm trying to figure out, why these two just talking and laughing? They just was enjoying each other. I'm like, what? And they were saying, man, these young persons just don't understand, man. What we have here today, we build this together. And so when young persons oh Jesus Lord, you're gonna pray for a lot of our females in the church. A lot of them they really have been, the world is over for them, that they're not getting married right now. A whole lot of them is like they're waiting on this man. But the most scariest thing about this union is going into it misinformed and uninformed. And so wisdom is the principal thing, and the only person who's able to give me wisdom is somebody who's ready being where I am. We have single persons counseling folks on their relationship. And so again, it's critical that every one of you as a collective body have something unique about your relationship. Very unique. And when you have an opportunity for someone to sit at your feet and you get able to give them some wisdom on how to find a woman. You can imagine now the majority of these young men, if you could sit down and hear them talk right now on how to find a woman. Where they are right now is different from where they were 10, 15 years ago. And so a young man asked me, a few hours ago concerning about marriage and relationship, and the list goes on. And I had to remind them, I said, bro, I've met folks who got married and found themselves in a position where their husband was unable to get an erection for almost 3 years. So he's like, what happened? What you think would happen? Her responsibility during that challenging time was to make sure he didn't feel less than what he felt. Because psychologically, if you take away sex from a man, may the Lord help him. That's a rough situation to be in. That was something, and we're talking about a new couple. That was something she had to walk through herself, with not much persons could give real direction in other than keep praying. That's a walk that I don't wish on any couple whatsoever. But today, ladies and gentlemen, that couple today is still around, stronger than ever. You know what I mean? Because their challenges help to bring them together. And these are some of the messages that are missing when it comes to young couples today who are getting married, because we get caught up in us, how we look, what we have. And we get caught up so much in what we have and how we look that we forget really to build on the real pillars of what really strengthens our relationships and our marriages. Sometimes we get lost in church so much that we end up forgetting our own intimate relationship with God. Christ said we must love our wives as Christ loved the church. That's on paper that a man reads that. But in reality, how many of us have even been able to see that before ourselves? And that's what I'm talking about. That's how important your union is, because the average person you're going to run into who is under the age of 30 is probably not coming from a home, which means they've never seen how husband and wives interact, how a woman deals with her man. We're in a culture right now that things have totally changed. There was a time when, and some of you may remember, when it comes to our grandparents who hang in through thick, I talking about that was beyond thick, where you had like little siblings popping up in society. You had little brothers. Sorry about that. Yes, now. And so our grandparents went through, I talking about embarrassment, public embarrassment. Our grandparents were, I talking about, on the height of disrespect, and they stood through those terms of, I talking about some of what we've experienced with our grandparents, equivalent to movies, and they stood. And so, I don't know who you are, but if you can post how many years that you've been married. Just type the numbers in, so I can know who I'm talking to right here today. Once again, if you've been married, it means of course everybody here is married. This send, okay, we have 7 years right here. Very good. That's Miss Chevette Bow. Whoa! You get a legend up on you. Kevin Edwards, 60. Oh, Melissa Pesenti. Yes, 30 years, 15 years, 14 years. Wow, 8 years. Powerful. Those who, the 6 and the 8, we kind of like, we company. We still little children to those who've been around for 30 years. Monday will make 12 years for Julia Sinville. To God be the glory. I want to encourage us, man, that, listen, you're the last hope. Serious talk. Because one of the things I've come to realize in being in ministry is that, we can spit scripture, but at the end of the day, how many persons have actually seen this thing I'm talking about in living form? This is what society misses. Because at the end of the day, a child who has not been loved ends up burning down the village he came from. A person that comes from a home where there was no parental love and guidance is what we call a person that doesn't have any foundation. We are watching persons get married who have no foundation, who are coming from no culture, who are meeting each other because I love you, and base their entire relationship on this feeling of burst of love, and 90% of the time is on lust. We could talk about her cups and her shape, her complexion, or his abs, his car he drives. If you sit down and listen to the average person who has got themselves involved in a relationship, there's nothing of any substance of meat on why you're tying your entire life to somebody. Because realistically, majority of them have never come from a family. So the closest they're going to meet an authentic family of imperfect individuals with a union, as God's hand is upon each of their relationship, is you. That's the big picture. The big picture isn't about the pastor preaching and those walking up. And those in ministry knows all about that. Yeah, man, persons come and they give their heart to God. And after that is what? It's no real discipleship. Majority of believers haven't had any real discipleship probably in the last 30 years in this country. You can tell. A person who's being discipled tends to mimic who that person has poured into them. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to your family and your union. Anytime you see persons talking about their engagement, that couple of weeks you sitting down with a pastor, oh my God. And so at the end of the day, we don't even understand what happens when divorce comes into place. I'm talking about the tearing and the destroying of what was brought together, especially when children are involved. How many of us sit down and express the importance and trying to get persons to understand this goes beyond a feeling? How many of us even have real sex talk with those who are getting into marriage or who are married when it comes to the point where you're not even turned on by that person anymore? Then what do I do? These are things that I've never even heard these discussed even in marriage classes. And so persons need to understand the authenticity that runs through your veins when it comes to you guys who've been around for 14 years. You guys are the MVP. You guys are the ones who can stand up and help individuals to understand what the real big picture is. As long as our society does not have families, we will continue to have a society that is immoral, that will continue to decay, and we will continue to produce men and women who hate themselves. Because at the end of the day, love to me is what I have been given and I can only give back. That's something I have to see to truly experience. What you mean I gotta forgive those that rightfully use me? How can you do that if you've never experienced that? You've never seen that. When persons can tell you what they have went through, and despite that, I made sure I assisted and I helped. These are things that we need to hear as believers to strengthen our walk, to encourage us. Because we get so consumed in us. It's natural now. It's a part of it's a part of our culture. It's even a part of some of our church culture. You know, I've met folks where this man in particular was a part of a grouping and he went on hard times. It became so bad that he had to get one of those jobs that, we're talking about a guy who's at an executive level, had to get a certain type of job that had folks looking at him from the side eye, to the point now, persons started to shy. These ain't children I'm talking about, you know, these grown men in their 50s. And so these are the things that kind of discourage individuals. This is what I saw as a young man who was pushed away from a grouping of married couples, successful men and women in the church, because his status dropped. And these are the things we got to be careful. And every one of us have a responsibility. Every single one of us. Christ commanded each and every one of us to go out there and make what? Disciples. And so, how many disciples you have right now when it comes to talking about your relationship and marriage? Let me remind some of y'all some things before we leave, especially those who've been married 30 years. I ain't going to remind them because they would know. All right? Remember 100 years ago, our grandparents was how old? 16 years of age. And so today, we look now, the majority of us getting married in our what? No, not in our old. And I got married at 33. Yeah, 33, I think. Yeah. 100 years ago, I'd be looked upon like, this dude, what you doing? And so we got to be careful on the way how we are pushing persons to get married who are not ready to get married. When I say not ready, we're not talking about having a good job and having a good education. That's all fine. We're talking about mentally matured, who have some understanding on life and what is a man. And so how can a man be a man if he's never seen a man? Right now we just have a bunch of males walking around who have muscles and have great degrees and could maybe own a home and own businesses, but that doesn't qualify you to be a man. And so the only way a male becomes a man, a true real man, is not just through his experiences, but again, remember, we are all products of what? Relationships. Who has been mentoring that man, a young man? This is what we are lacking. And so we have to remember our responsibility to society that goes beyond your church congregation. Because, many of us who are caught up in church, we become tribal. We ain't coming to your church because we don't like your pastor. We don't like your first lady. She thinks she's too cute. So there's always a level of division. So we have to go beyond our nil division. It's there. And that happens when we go back to 1 Corinthians. We go back to 1 Corinthians and we remember the fact that love is patient, love is kind. We have to be intentional when it comes to mentoring, not the next generation. People we meet now. Folks who are married now. Persons who want to get in a relationship now. You ask the tough questions. Why? So what's going to happen when this happens? And so we need to have some real practical conversation, because marriage is a practical walk. That young lady said who went through that issue where her husband couldn't get an erection anymore. That's intimacy out the door. She had to find creative ways of satisfying him and encouraging him and letting him know, you are still my king despite of what you're going through right now. That's a love she had to rediscover within herself. And so we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that some of the folks we're going to come into contact with are not as strong as you, are not as wise as you. I'd even say not as smart as you. And sometimes we have to be patient with our counseling, with our mentorship. We have to be intentional and letting folks know, this is my significant other. This is my soulmate. And where you can, the things you can discuss, the challenges you went through and how you were able to overcome them. This is how we strengthen the next generation and prepare them for what you guys have now. For that 30 years. For that 16 and 18 years. Because at the end of the day, every one of us had different challenges through our walk. Us who been only 6 and 8 years, we're called babes. We're called babes. And so sometimes we find ourselves even through our faults. In fact, even better, I've got to learn to understand much earlier in life. It's best to learn from other person's mistakes. This is why it's so important for us to continue to keep engaging mankind. Don't become so secluded that you kind of move yourself away from society. We just see you jumping in your cars and just going in the food store. No, man. It's important for us to start getting in people's business. It's important for us to start intentionally being the light for this generation, letting them know that this thing works. You're in it to win it. And the only way that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, every one of us has to do our part. Every single one. At my closing, I want to remind you right now, it's important that we all remember the mission is not about you, it's about the kingdom of God. You have children, you have a serious mission ahead of you to equip your children. Let me share something with you that I have not got to share yet on any public platform. back about, I'll say about maybe 70 years ago, the schooling system was controlled by the Catholic Church. So most persons went to school, got an authentic Christian education. Today in society, we have a different landscape when it comes to education. So if you're unable to afford certain fees, your children don't go to a certain private school, so they go to what they call public school. So here we are. Let me show you how serious this is. You drop your child into a secular environment from 5. That child gets a little God for 2 hours on a Sunday. For us who don't have devotions at home. That is your child's reality from grade 1 to grade 12, and then he goes to a secular institution. He spends 8 hours a day in an environment with only maybe prayer. So we drop our children into a secular environment, and we sit back 15, 20 years later trying to figure out what went wrong. Children were not meant to be dropped into a secular environment to evangelize when they themselves are being developed. This is how important your union is. Because when we find ourselves and our children in these type of environments, our engagement towards them has to be on a serious level because of what they're being exposed to. I remember walking into some schools, and we had a situation where we had a grade 4 that raped a grade 6. Put the young lady to the wall, heisted up her legs, and penetrated her. The ambulance had to come right here in the capital. And these are environments our children are in when it comes to our government schools or even some of our private schools. And this is what we're dropping our children in. When we don't have that relationship or able to engage, have that conversation with our children, we lose them at a very young age. There were times teachers went into the bathroom and met grade 4s having oral sex. Where do grade 4s learn to have oral sex from? It's called the home. If it ain't directly to the home, it's somebody who is tied to the family. This is how important your union is. Because decisions always have to be made. Who am I leaving my child with? Is it worth me dropping my child to the school, or me taking time off and homeschooling my child if I'm unable to put them in a cleaner or better environment? How many of us even involved in our PTA meetings? We have to know who is around our children. When we fail at the home, your country is doomed. Unless we're going to go out there and just try to fish for, godly citizens out there. Godly citizens don't happen by osmosis. It takes time and sacrifice. The engagement has to happen from conception. And so their understanding of a man should come from daddy. Not from the dude walking with a joint coming to pick up his 2 children. I had a program in one of the inner cities, and here I am with the church bus and the kids coming in, and the daddy standing up with 2 condoms in his hand in the primary school. Blunt stuck in his pocket. And that's what that child goes home to every single day. And so our evangelism, when it comes to our married couples, is critical. And so for us who are in the public school system, it's critical that you get involved in your PTA meetings, because now you have access to who? Parents. See, in the 20 years of me doing ministry, I can tell you where we have gone wrong. We've gone wrong because we've been attacking and going at the kids, but not going at the who? The parents. Those children have returned back in those environments. And those environments where they're not being encouraged, they're not being loved, where they're being exposed. And I have to tell a lot of single mothers, man, listen, man, your private life, don't bring that home. Your daughter does not need to see how much men are coming home to you for you to pay your bills. It's difficult for a child to respect his mommy. And so here we have a society that has been brought up without our hands deeply involved in them, because we meet them at the altar, we meet them on the park. But us right now, everything that we're involved in when it comes to our workplace, our children, our side businesses, listen to me, is always an opportunity for you to go into those communities and to present the gospel, to bring to society what we've been lacking. And the conversation about, does this even make sense, even getting married anymore? Person's doing this for a show, not realizing what marriage is all about. And so I want to thank you all who have been on a part of this live here today. And I want to encourage you, listen man, your union is greater than just how people perceive you. It's greater than the accomplishment that you have, because at the end of the day, there's a reality that we always have to keep in mind, that we only here for a season. So the season while we're here, let's find ways of continuing to make our significant others find themselves, their gifting. Let's encourage them. Let's walk with them. And so we all have a uniqueness to bring to society and to life. And so with that person who God has entrusted you with, who you wake up on the side of every single day, let's encourage them. Let's go out there and let's make disciples. Let's use what we have, where we are right now, to be that reality for some persons. For some persons, when I never understood what it was to be a father, I got that from my pastors. What I lacked at home, I made sure at the end of the day that I don't present that to my family. Let's teach men how now to take responsibility and get away from the daddy syndrome. But I never had a daddy. All right. Many of us had a daddy and still didn't have a daddy. What's the point? Let's encourage folks now that you're getting involved in a union. You need to get an understanding of who you're getting involved in and what's expected out of you. Let's have some conversations that those who are having marriage counseling don't want to have with them. We could save some couples from making the biggest mistakes in their life. Some people should not have gotten married if they had sat and talked with you to get the reality. Because some persons you could identify and you be like, miss, run. Run now. Homeboy, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. And see, that's what 30 years could show you. 30 years, 16 years, 8 years gives you a piece of training that the majority of persons who call themselves marriage officers don't even have to this day. And so I'm encouraging us, man, every living, wherever you are, whatever island you on, Eleuthera, Abaco, Freeport, Nassau, let's go there, man. Let's show folks that, guess what? Godly marriages work. And your involvement in someone's life right now could be critical. Could be a generation saver. Because you don't know who you're mentoring. You don't know who you're coming in contact with. I remember my trip to Andres one day, and we was getting ready for an outreach, and the pastor I was with, his wife came to bring him his food. She brought him his food in their fine china. We outside, you know. We outside. Fine china. So everyone look at each other like you don't have any styrofoam, nothing like that. I said, no love, I don't give my husband food and that type of stuff. I serve my husband with excellence. I stood back there and said, whoa. I witnessed that. That imprinted and taught me a lesson when it comes to creating a culture within your home. These kind of conversations you don't hear. You don't want to talk about that. Everyone getting caught up in power couples. And that's good to be a power couple. But at the end of the day, many of us need to understand some foundational things when it comes to loving your husband and your wife. Communication. You know, how to communicate when you're frustrated. going to bed angry with it. I don't care. The danger of that. And so all of these things that you have now, you have what you'd call life experiences. Those life experiences that you have survived, many of you have battle scars. Let's go there, man. And let's let folks know the importance and how critical it is of making your marriage work and understand the big picture. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to remind everyone again, Marriage in Crisis webinar, which is going to be on September 28th to the 29th, 2 days. And some of the topics are going to be blended family, what no one told us about the blended families, winning a communication, why can't we talk, sex and marriage, am I doing enough, am I doing it right, money matters, overcoming bad habits to achieve financial blessings in marriage. And of course, our speakers will be Leonardo and Delarice Allen, two very qualified individuals, and Nathaniel Butler, certified financial expert. Trust me, it's going to be amazing. And so you guys make sure to be a part. It's going to be hosted by our very own Vito and Lyd Patrick. That's going to be September 28th to the 29th. Please share that flyer with everyone that you can, please. It's critical and important. Trust me, these topics are important. Sometimes the young couples tend to feel like they know all things. You have to remind them, buddy. And all things you get understanding. Thank you once again for tonight. Denero Anderson, thank you. Foundation is important. Sarah Raman, create a unique culture in your home. Yeah, man. Bradley Henfield said, some don't take the advice. That's on them, bro. That on you. You see what Jesus told his disciples? When you go into those homes, buddy, and persons deny you, they deny him. He told his disciples to brush the dirt that came out of their house off their slippers. Don't even take that dirt out. So when they decide to ignore you, Mr. Bradley Enfield, then they're in condemnation to themselves, man. You know, and so at the end of the day, you know, even when they deny us, we receive it and we let them, and we depart them with love, you know, because we always want to leave the door open. We always want to leave the door open. Love is patient, is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Even the way you talk concerning your relationship depend on who you're talking to and what the sensitivity of their situation is. It's just you have to use wisdom. Very critical. Very critical. This is the Bradley Henfield that has the men program in Freeport. If that's you, let me shout it right there, please. Sarah Raman says, this here I share to my children now. You never stop depositing into their lives awesome information. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In this, and I could also say something too. In this challenging time right now, when it comes to where we are heading, as in gathering, this is an important time as couples, as churches, that we start having a conversation on the environments we have our children in. Who is teaching our children? Someone who spends 8 hours with your child every single day tends to grow a relationship on your child. Who is around your child? We have to be careful. We have to take the initiative to find out who is around our children. Yes, Secrets of the Man Cave. Yes, sir. Being fought on you. Keep up the good work, man. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Pastor McIntosh. She said, awesome. Mr. Patrick, thank you for the happy anniversary. I'm going to be with you guys for a few more minutes before I go spend some time with my wife. Michael Pigott, if you check my Facebook, you will see me and my wife and kids. Awesome. I'll say one of the issues, I wouldn't say issues, but what could be a challenge with this young generation, they spend so much time on portraying an image with social media pertaining to their relationships and family, which can work against you, because at the end of the day, if everything about you is so public, then you tend to lose value. Your home and your children and your family, there's certain things just you don't need to share with society, especially if it's just posting what. And so we got to be careful that we don't find ourselves just living for the Joneses and not making sure that our reality is real, where it really counts. Remember a statement the late Pastor Miles said many years ago. One of the worst situations you could be in is married and single. And this is where a lot of persons who rush in to get themselves into marriage, who don't have the understanding, who don't have the training, who have never been exposed to the reality of life itself. It's better you stay single and lonely, where you could go to dinner sometimes, than the fact that be stuck with somebody and you can't do nothing. And so folks just need just like, again, it's a beautiful thing, but it goes beyond just a feeling. We have to apply some awesome, great principles. Some wars just ain't worth fighting. We got married at 22 and 21. Yes, ma'am, you grew together. And see, another thing too that we don't talk about, the sexual history that you develop from teenager to when you get married, and how that alone itself can create a serious challenge. A serious challenge. Men and women both need to understand the danger. When I talk to persons about sex no more, I don't just say, don't. It comes with danger. It comes with responsibility. You go there and you make babies with a bunch of individuals. You're tying yourself to somebody who you practically just want a one-night stand with. You now have a child that you don't have full access to. And so all these things that we have to let individuals know the benefits of this union, the security that comes with it, the trust that's developed. Because if Beyonce teaching your daughter, may the Lord be with you and keep you. I've been with my husband from I was 16. Wow. That's Melissa Presenti. Awesome. Unique stories right there. Unique. Once again, if you have any other comments or statements you want to make, please do. I have about 3 more minutes and I'll be out of here. Michael Pigott, we are celebrating our 33rd anniversary. Congratulations. Benefits of this union. Yep. Sometimes some of us need to just go live, man. Just go live and just share. Since everybody just caught up on our phones. Social media. Some days, guys, man, just grab the grill. Bring some fish and some lobster and stuff and get the men to come down, man. And let them, talk some reality with them. Oh, great. All right. Michael Biggity is celebrating his 33rd anniversary today. All right. I'm sharing this day with some amazing folks. Siobhan, Wendy McIntosh just logged on. Well, anyway, as I get ready to head out of here, again, want to remind you, Unique Couples Marriage in Crisis Seminar is going to be September 28th to the 29th. It's going to happen this year. It's going to be a webinar. All right. I don't see any price, so it's free of charge. All right. Then this is a private and exclusive virtual webinar for you to make your marriage last a lifetime. Now, Mr. Nathaniel Butler is a trained, certified financial coach. I think he's been in the financial business now for many years. Many years. And so he's well qualified on dealing with your finances and some of these topics. Trust me, is right up his area. Money matters, overcoming bad habits to achieve financial bliss in marriage. We have sex in marriage. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it enough? Blended family, what no one told us about the blended families. We have Leonardo and Delarice Allen. These two are, trust me, these two are an amazing couple who have a wealth of knowledge. Two ex-Marines who have served their country very well and are now pastors with the Church of God. And so they have, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Do you want to prevent your marriage from breaking up and ending in divorce? Do you feel like you are in the brink of a marriage crisis? Definitely this webinar is critical for you to be a part of it. You must email them at Unique Couples. All right. In fact, the flyer has the email down there for your registration. It's not going to be just a live webinar. You'll have to let them know you're going to be a part. It's probably going to be a Zoom meeting because of some of the critical things they're going to be discussing. And definitely you're going to be able to ask questions and so forth. So that's going to be kind of private, but it's open for you to be a part of. I would encourage everyone to please be a part. All right. It's Unique Couples Rekindled at gmail.com. It's at the very bottom of the flyer. Thank you, Mr. Eric Clark. Appreciate that. Kevin Edwards, thank you very much. There's no cost for the registration. Oh, my bad. Email, or you have the email Unique Couples Rekindled at Gmail to get the cost for the registration. There is a slight cost, so please forgive me for that wrong information. And that is worth the investment. Anything of any value, man, listen, you have to invest in it. Any of us in the professional field, you know that you had to pay for your certifications, you know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, we have qualified men and women who are coming to share some secrets that they themselves have proven to work, and they have been able to save families over the years because of these same principles they're going to be talking about. So it's worth your investment. So please reach out to them. Unique Couples Rekindled at gmail.com. And I can tell you right now, Nathaniel Butler is one of the country's finest. He definitely is. He's very successful in what he do. When I say very successful in what he do, what he does is not a dude who just pick up a book and read. He is in the financial business. His portfolio is amazing, what he's been able to do at a very young age. And so I've met him a few times, just amazed, great man of God. Also Leonardo and Delarice Allen, trust me, I'm an amazing couple. Trust me, you're getting the real deal right here. And so big shout out to Mr. Vito and Lyd Patrick for putting on this amazing marriage in crisis webinar. Michael Piggott, may God bless you and the family. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much. Please continue to keep me in your prayers. Thank you, Mr. Eric Clark. Appreciate. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to finish and catch the rest of the evening as I can. And so once again, I'm reachable. You guys can find me on my Facebook page. If you're going to add me, you could add me at Dr. Nathan C. Rolle. I'm on Facebook. Instagram also at Dr. E.C. Rolle. And that's Dr. Dr.E.C_Rolle. And let's continue to stay in contact, man. Thank you for all those who was able to share. Thank you for all those who were blessed by my short presentation. And I hope that you're encouraged. We're in this together. And so I could be reached at any time if you need me. And so God bless. And let's continue to keep each other in prayer during this challenging time. Let's continue to keep our government in prayer as the world is going through a trying time. I can say one thing though. For many of us who were so busy that you didn't have time to be home, you had nothing else to do but to be home. And so one joke before I leave, this guy woke up during our lockdown, man, and he woke up frantic, asking his wife who these people are in his home. And she had to remind him, man, they are your children. You've been missing for so many years. They've grown up. They're all your children. And sometimes you could become so busy doing life that the persons around you are growing up and maturing and aging. The guy was serious. He did not know, because it happens. You come home and children are asleep. Year 1 passed, year 2 passed, summers passed. You left your son at 5 feet. Summer came, end of summer came. You were now in the new school semester, and the dude 6'9", with bass in his voice. That could happen, So you guys be encouraged, man, and let's continue to stay in it to win it. And remember the big picture, man. It's not just about us. It's about having a kingdom impact. It's about the kingdom of God. God bless.